Tried.
You got some reactions in here for that.
Oh, I did. Holding you. Holding you. He's pissed.
He said, disregards it, a middle finger.
I'm gonna have more than one. Yeah. You guys can send it. I got thick skin. I just spoke to some agents. It was a nonverbal. Well, give 2 nonverbals back to Sal. Yeah, well, he's number 2. With love and affection. But let me get started real quick and just thank, I did it the other day or when I did but there's a lot of work, seriously, that goes in with our scouts and our coaches, and we were just kind of up there talking about the whole process and as we're, kind of working on some of these undrafted free agents. But, I've been on teams where you don't have you're not in sync necessarily with the coaches and scouting at all times. It can be hard. Egos get in the way. Coach likes this guy, scout likes this guy, vice versa. And we got a great group, and I think it's helped us here. We're all on the same page. We know what they're looking for in their positions, just time on task, hanging out with each other separate of just work, and then, a lot of work put into it. It just, I really appreciate all those people. Our medical team doing a lot of deep diving, calling back, especially guys that don't go to the combine when you're getting down to these late guys that don't get drafted or late draft picks, digging, finding, calling the schools. It's just we couldn't do what we do without those people. And I know I'm up here and a lot of times Sean is, but those people deserve a lot of credit, so I want to thank them. But with that said, we'll fire away.
Can you talk about next year, picking up picks for next year? And I've read, if you want to comment on this or not, that maybe the consensus is next year's draft might even be a little bit stronger, so that played into that. Is that at all possible?
Yeah, we felt that the way our board was looking, that we could add some picks and still get the guys that we were drafting. Just the way it was working and who we had on the board. There's no guarantees, but we were excited about the guys we got, and we're excited. We still got to take 6 picks that we like and think have a legit chance to help us, and then separately, if assuming everything goes well with the comp pick that we should get for losing Tremaine, I'm expecting us to be at 10 picks right now, which that's exciting. I love the picks, and it'll buffer when I do things like trade up for next year. So maybe help that. But yeah, that's probably the best way to say it, Sal.
Before the draft, you had said that you never go into a draft going, hey, we're going to go one side of the ball or the other side of the ball, but it tended toward offense. Is that something that just kind of the way the board fell, or did you go back and look at stuff from the way it went down last year? Are you going to add some stuff?
Yeah, today when we took Shorter, we probably could have gone either way. We had similar grade on a defensive player, but felt like he would definitely get a jersey for sure. He's a 4-phase special teamer. Also gives us another bigger receiver that we can develop. We thought there was a little more upside and a more sure bet of him, potential, as long as he comes in and does what we expect, earning a jersey. So that kind of weighted it out. But it wasn't, I promise you guys, there was never, hey, we got to get offense this draft. It could have easily gone. It was the picks when they came up, the first 2 rounds, they were just a guy standing out, best player. And then, like I said, Shorter. The rest of the day, we could have probably gone either way. Broker was clearly the best player on our board when he went. And then Austin at the end, you're kind of coming down. Who's got the best chance to help? And that one, we hadn't added a defensive back. So we liked him and what we think he can add to the team.
You mentioned going into this draft that defensive tackle was one spot that you probably looking to address because you don't have anybody on a contract past this year. Do you leave this draft without doing that and kind of annoyed a little bit about it or no?
Well said. Yeah. Yeah, it just didn't fall our way. It really didn't. From that standpoint, I was hoping to add one for sure. Working on some other things. Maybe we'll see if there's a veteran out there that we've talked to a couple people prior to the draft, and we decided to wait and see. But we'll see this coming week. I think we'll have a chance to add at least one veteran.
Understanding that you stick to the board and how things fall and that sort of thing, how do you weigh, like, you wanted to get a defensive tackle and it not working out, like, and wanting, battling that, reaching for one versus not, like, how do you do that knowing that you have those outside options as well?
It's hard. It really is. But it's maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know. I'm just wired what I've seen. Take good football players and don't reach down. If you put them there, that's where you value them. You've done all that work, and then on draft day, because it's not falling your way, it's easy to do. But I think if you stay disciplined, over time you keep yourself with a stronger roster. You start making exceptions here, there, filling need. Again, when you get to the very end of the draft, you are grabbing for need. Hence, corner, that we took late. That was more of a need. Like we definitely need to do this. But other than that, it was either the best player or it was tied with the best player. And you follow the board. That's when I realized today that D tackle was not probably going to happen for us with a selection. Now, we'll work on undrafted guys, but that's when we got back in touch with some agents and started talking, and we'll see if we can get something done here in the next coming weeks.
This draft class brings something to the table each year, right? So what are you expecting out of this year's draft class, given a 2-year window?
Nothing crazy. Mookie just come in like we adapt. These are all really good guys that all well spoken of from their school. None of them been in any kind of trouble. They're all, like I said, they'll fit into Buffalo community. Just come in here, and the guys that we've been able to bring in our first 3 picks. The rest of them will wait till they come in a couple weeks. But the message has been just come in, get to work, keep your head down, learn from the right veterans, and everything here is earned. And so no promises for starting roles, anything like that. But we think we got guys that will come in, and whether they start or whether they back up, or again, I've mentioned special teams, finding a way and explaining to them how they can earn a jersey. If you're not starting, you better be helping on teams. And that's how we, kind of do things here in Buffalo.
Understanding how the draft board fell for you still, your first 2 real important picks were on offense. And that was a point of concern you had at the end of the season when you talked about, I would say we never put together a complete game. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Josh in here saying, I'm going to have to learn to adapt and change. To not, as broad as his shoulders are, he can't carry the whole load.
Yeah.
How important is it to give him some protection and this guy who is has this different dimension to your offense, to maybe provide some kind of a spark, I guess, and how much does now the emphasis fall on Dorsey being the spark?
Yeah, I mean, I think we came into the draft looking to, yes, are there ways to add protection up front? Again, free agency, we added McGovern, David Edwards to our group, and we had a chance to get, Osiris from Florida, and then Broker today. So really thrilled with the guys we've added to some beef up front. And then we were looking for guys to add to our skill positions that can be matchups, and whether it's receiver, tight end, whatever it is, just a guy, another weapon to hey, you can't double Steph every play. Like if you do, we're expecting this guy to win his one-on-one matchup, or Gabe to win his one-on-one matchup. Again, Khalil Shakir, we got a lot of hope for him. I thought he really played well down the stretch when he had his opportunity. Hardy, Hardy's been really good when he's been on the field. He's had a couple of injury things that caught up with him in New Orleans, but if we can keep him healthy, he's a really fast guy. So we've just tried to look for different things, different pieces to use so that Dorsey and the offensive staff can come out and kind of be in multiple formations, multiple looks, different game plans. This week we need to air it out. This week we need to run it a little bit more. Adding Damian Harrison, probably a more physical guy. James Cook in year 2. Naheem coming back from, he finished the season, 7-8 games with us. Has the whole offseason to learn our offense and then special teams. So all of it is to make it to where Josh can play quarterback and not feel like he's got to do everything, John.
Brandon, with only 6 picks, does your drafted class, you think, have to be a little larger this year? And do you have like a ballpark number as to where you may have to come down on that?
Yeah, well, you can go to 90. I don't expect us to go to 90 right now, Chris. We've marked guys that we would be excited about that we believe can come in here, either compete for a roster spot or be a really good practice squad. Other than that, I think we're going to end up, probably 82 to 85 by over the next, few days. Some of it will take a little time here. Also, we'll see if we can add a vet or two this week. So counting all that, but we're not going to be anywhere near 90. We were hopeful. There was a few guys that we were hopeful to be able to target in free agency that got selected. After our last pick, but you only have so many picks. There's only so much you can do. So we're working on that, and hopefully, I know the way social media, you guys will probably have it not long after we agree with some of these guys.
Now that your linebacker group is settled, you take a look at your roster. Where do you see Terrell Bernard fitting in, Tyrell Dodson, even Bill Inspector, and how does the middle look now after losing Tremaine?
Yeah, starting with Bernard, he'll definitely get a chance to compete for that Mike spot. So again, he'll do that. Spector will get a chance at that. Tyrell will get a chance for that. We know AJ can play in there, Klein, or play outside. Obviously, Matt's going to be, an outside-only guy. And Dorian, we'll see. We're not ruling out. We're still talking about maybe we'll look at him as a guy to get in there and compete at Mike. We just got to see how much we can get him called up to what it takes to run this defense. It'll be a big transition for him. Great young man. He's eager to try it. We'll see. At worst case, though, he would be an outside backer for us this year, and then we'll see next year. But yeah, all those guys that you mentioned, Bernard, Spector, Dodson, are all going to get in there and compete for that Mike linebacker, starting role.
Brandon, you mentioned Dorian there. I think going back to that pick, it was made kind of late last night. There is a pretty close physical profile match to Bernard. So could you maybe just describe what sets them apart, makes them different as players?
Yeah, I would say Dorian he's an athletic. He's going to be a little bit faster, a little bit more speed. Bernard made a lot of plays at Baylor, off his instinct, feel, knowing where to be. Probably more in that AJ Klein mold. When AJ came out of Iowa State, maybe not as athletic as Tremaine was coming out, but just super instinctive. So yeah, size, is one thing, but instincts, feel, all that stuff. And so we'll see where Dorian is, but he was, he made a lot of tackles. I think I mentioned that last night. So we think we have very good competition in there, and we're not going to, predetermine who we think's going to win or not. Obviously, guys like Dodson has, separate of AJ, Dodson has the most experience here. He's got the most reps in the system. So you'd probably have to say he's the leader in the clubhouse. But these other guys are, the second-year guys, Bernard and Spector, are working hard, knowing their opportunity. And we had Dorian in here today. We'll get him up to speed as quick as we can. And when we get to camp, we'll know by then whether we're going to truly give him a chance at that mic or whether we'll just say, hey, year one, just learn the outside.
Brandon, the word undersized seems to be thrown out a lot across a bunch of different positions. With linebacker in particular, it's been tagged like Terrell and Dorian. But have the parameters in your eyes maybe changed for what should be indicated as an undersized or traditional normal size for that position?
Yeah, it's like anything. There's minimums, and they meet the minimum threshold, but long and short of it, John, it's it's also a matchup league. So you can take a bigger guy who is stout against the run, but he may be, you get him in the passing game, and you get him on a slot on him or anything like that. It could be a mismatch from that standpoint. So you got to weigh, the passing game versus the run game, and some guys can do both. You'd love a guy who's athletic enough to match up and stout enough to be firm, when they're trying to run downhill on you. And so you're going to give up something here or there, but we're not worried about, the guys we have in there that are going to compete for Mike, what they're giving up. We think there's enough advantage for the other, if they're lack of size, we think they're going to be able to play the pass game.
Do you feel comfortable with the players that you have to compete for that Mike spot, or do you feel like that's one of those you would look for veterans?
No, we brought in A.J. Klein as a guy who's done it. So I know everyone's concerned about it, but we feel that we have good guys that are working hard. We got a veteran defense around them, and yeah, there's going to be mistakes. Yes, if you expect them to come in and be Tremaine Edmonds week one, you're not going to get that. Tremaine played 5 years for us, went through a lot of reps, some ups and downs as a rookie, working his way. These guys are not going to be perfect, and if we expect that from them, we're setting them up to fail. And so I think we have to be fair to them that these are, sometimes guys on your roster are there as backups. Until you put them out there and give them a chance, you don't know. And so that's where we're at. We believe in these guys, and we're going to give them a chance.
Brandon, I know you mentioned specifically defensive tackle, but if you look at a list of veterans that are still out there, there are some really big names. In your mind, are these players just kind of waiting to see how drafts fall to then be a little bit more picky? Is there value to be had with those players? I guess, what are the next steps for teams, and specifically you guys, with some of those bigger name players that are still out there?
You talking about for defensive tackle?
Just in general.
Oh, in general?
The list, especially in defense, defensive ends, edge rushers, linebackers, defensive tackles, there's a lot of people still out there.
Yeah, I think, Matt, what happens is guys go through free agency and they're hoping for a certain deal or a certain situation. It doesn't come to fruition. And after a certain time, they're like, listen, I don't want to sign somewhere for a value that maybe the team can draft over me and push me out the door. Let me get through the draft and see where my best opportunity is to make it. And then, you got teams too, like we were doing, that are playing the comp formula that you don't want to pay over a certain number. So maybe guys are like, well, I'll see past the draft if some of these teams will offer more. And so I think that'll all happen, with, whatever names you're kind of referring to there.
There seems like, Brandon, out of curiosity, when you guys decided to trade down a couple of times today, was that you initiating those conversations, knowing that there wasn't the value, or was that other teams coming up and saying, hey, would you be willing to move down?
It was a little bit of both, and it's what we do every pick is we're working the phones. Brian Gain and Terrence Gray sitting right to my right are the main guys working the phones, and we're lining up potential guys to trade back with, unless I've said, hey, in the case of Kincaid, let's see if we can move up. But even so, they're still working more of the trade back stuff. I'll kind of decide if I want to go trade up and call those teams. They're lining up, and as we get close, hey, we may have this team or this team if we don't want to pick. And so, like I said, we had some opportunities we probably could have taken advantage of, but we just liked the player, too good in those earlier rounds to do that. Like I said, last night I was hoping in the second or third to get some more picks, but like the two guys we got more than what we would get trading back. So when we got there today, we just felt today the way the board was set up that we liked the way it looked. We liked players on the board, and let's add, if we have a chance to keep picks, we started this draft with 6. We still got to select 6, and we were able to add 2 more for next year. I think it worked out as good as it could for us.
I don't think we talked to you since you extended Tyler Bass. You could just comment on that. And
Yep.
does that give you a little more clarity going forward with maybe Ed or Gabe or anybody else who, on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. I'll answer the second part first, Sal. really Tyler was one of those ones that we started that conversation right after the season, talked for a little bit, and then pushed pause so that his agent wanted to work through some other things and get back to us on it. And so we haven't talked about the other guys to this point. But Tyler, we think he's done a great job. Came in here, he had a tough deal. If you remember, he was part of the COVID draft, so he got no preseason games, and we're throwing him out there right away with just a scrimmage out there in the stadium as our only. We tried to put pressure on him and all that, and I think you guys know him by now. Like, he fits Buffalo, he fits us. He misses a kick, he wipes it off, and so we think he's still an ascending kicker. It's not easy to kick here. We know that, the weather and the wind that we get, and I think he's pretty darn good and earned that right.
We spent like 20 minutes with Justin, which is a lot for those Zoom interviews. I mean, really just a ton of charisma. What did you guys see in him? He mentioned a lot in the interview about his interactions with Adam Henry, how much he gravitated towards him. How important was that in that process, evaluating him?
Yeah, so we brought him in. He was one of our 30 visits, and it was really good to kind of sit down and hear his story. And she transferred from Penn State down to Florida, and this guy, he loves ball. He wants to prove that he can play receiver first and foremost, but he also is excited to go talk to Matt Smiley and what he's going to do in the kicking game. And you love that, a guy that you're giving a jersey to that's not just going to be a receiver. We think he's still an ascending guy. He'll have to prove it, but gives us a size guy, but really like his DNA. He's a confident young man, and you like that. You don't want to draft a guy who doesn't believe in himself, and so we look forward to getting him in here and into our DNA and our culture.
Brandon, if you go back to Thursday afternoon before this started, was there something that you had in your mind that you would have considered your top priority that you had to get accomplished over the following 3 days?
I was hoping on offense that we would add a weapon. I really was. I was hoping somewhere to add to the O-line, whether it was interior or on the perimeter. But beyond that, I wanted to add a D tackle. For what I've told you guys, as far as I don't have long-term guys under contract there, but I think that shows you we truly do stick to the board. There were guys we could have reached for. It wasn't working the way our board was set when we were picking. But did we hit every single thing? No, you rarely do. But I do think we've added guys that will help us either as starters, key contributors, and then key backups that will help us on fourth down.
Kind of following up on that, you had said going into this you had less first-round grades than usual. How do you feel this draft just as a whole played out for your team?
Yeah, I thought we got guys where we were valuing them, which I wasn't sure, especially early on, the way the board was kind of falling, Catherine. But that was part of why I was trying to today see if I could add some draft capital for next year. It wasn't definitely up top. It wasn't what we normally see, up at the top of the draft. And so I think some guys that normally might be on your board in the second round, we're getting pulled in the first round. We just didn't have as many grades. Some people had more than us, but I think but once you get to the day, people start going in a lot of different directions for what their team needs, how they do business. And so there were still good players. It just probably wasn't as heavy at the top.
You were just stockpiling picks so you won't get bored next year on day 30?
No, I was stockpiling to prevent myself or to protect myself when I trade up.
This is the first time we've had a chance to ask you about Aaron Rodgers entering the division. Just thoughts of what the AFC East looks like now, and how people are chasing you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this guy's a 3, 4, 5-time MVP. I can't remember. I know he won it 2 years in a row prior to this year. He's a stud. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I know he's 38 or 39, whatever he is, but the way the game is now, he's you can't tell he's a 39-year-old quarterback. Like he still got it. Even out here last year, I mean, he was playing with a younger crew, and he kept him in the game. It wasn't going well for him early, and we couldn't put him away, and I think that's because of him. So, yeah, that's a tough task, and they've done a great job. Joe Douglas, Coach Sala, That's a really good team, and you could see them ascending, last year. And yeah, it's a quarterback league, and they got, a top guy, and that'll be a formidable opponent. Miami's really good. They fought us down to the end with a backup quarterback in the playoffs, and that game could have gone either way. Like, it was hanging in the balance there for a little while before we were able to pull away. They're only going to get better getting Tua back another year. And New England, Coach O'Brien over there, I think will provide them some stability, some direction on the offense. Maybe they weren't in sync last year as much as they would have liked. So, and Coach Belichick's the greatest of all time. So the division's as tough as it's ever been. We'll have to play really good football if we're going to find a way to compete for the AFC East.
Brandon, it seems like there's a concerted effort to attack the guard position this offseason. You go back, you had Connor, Osiris, Roker, David Edwards, even Kevin Jarvis. Can you just kind of talk about where that started and how you guys decided to kind of zero in on that position, it seems like a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily mean today hey, I'm going to go draft another one, but he was the best guy on the board, and I think he's a good player, and I think he can help us. So, yeah, early on it was just let's add some more competition, some depth. Let's look at what we did last year. Let's see if we can make it even better. We did some good things. It was just down the stretch, our whole offense, like I said, was a little out of sync. Was maybe the O-line sometimes wasn't always in sync. Maybe our skills, Josh, whatever it was really just, it's been a concerted effort. Let's try and look at where we can make ourselves incrementally better at, again, O-line and the skill spots. So, it wasn't like just the guards or anything like that, Sal.
Hey, Brandon, when you guys start OTAs and training camp, what do you want to see out of Gabe Davis and Shakir to say, hey, these guys are ready to take the next step and be a big part of the game plan each week?
Yeah, I think again this will be Gabe's second year going in as a full-time starter. Before that, he had been a key role playing that 4 role inside outside. So he's naturally going to be better. And again, in defense of him, hopefully he doesn't roll his ankle and set himself back. Gabe's a really good player. Not everything went his way last year. I know no one is going to outwork Gabe Davis. I got a lot of confidence in him, and I think the other guys that we've added to the group will hopefully take some pressure off him and just let him be Gabe. And like I said earlier, I think Shakir, I got a lot of confidence in Khalil. The moment's not too big for this young man. He can play inside. He can play out. We'll probably start him inside, but he can go out there and do that 4 role in a different form, different style maybe than Gabe did it. And Hardy the same way. Hardy can play inside. Hardy can play outside. He's a smaller guy, speed, but he's got enough speed. If he gets off the press, he can get by those corners pretty quick.
Brandon, when we bring up extensions, we often talk about Gabe and that, but one we don't talk about much is Micah. Are you hoping to potentially get something done with him because he's expiring?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that much. Micah's been more about just excited to get him back, and I know it was a tough year for him, and so just having him here this offseason, his leadership and all that stuff, I hope Micah can continue to play and all that, but it's more just been getting him back into the fold. We haven't really approached that on either side.
Is there a possibility that you would still look to find some veteran weapons for Josh?
Veteran weapons for Josh. You talking about like receiver, running back, just any position? Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm always looking. If there's a player that we think can upgrade us, but again, it's got to be a player that would fit in our salary cap. We don't have a lot of money, Mookie, so I'm not sure who you're talking about, but whoever it is, they got to be willing to play for about $2 million. So if you find a good one, let me know. I said if you find a good one. You don't qualify. Are you playing for the Little Sisters? All right, thank you.
Broker, is he a guard for you guys? He played a lot of left.
He played some tackle, so I think we'll give him reps at both. Probably, we always talk about is he an outside first and in? I would say an inside to out. but we'll try him at both. If you said he's got to play one, I would say guard. Yeah, he can also snap too. I don't believe he's done it in a game, but I know he's done it. He may have done it at Senior Bowl.
On
Yeah.
Alex Austin, do you see him as corner strictly, or? could you
Corner,
see-
corner.
Okay.
Yep, he'll be a corner. Yep. All right, thank you guys.
Go have that beer.
Hey, you can use this now.